The courtroom was a tomb of cold, hard marble and crushing expectation, and for Olivia Harrington, one of the wealthiest women in the city, her world was dissolving into dust. She watched in paralyzing silence as her high-powered, multi-million-dollar lawyer, her last hope, packed his briefcase, offered a cold, patronizing apology, and walked out, leaving her utterly exposed to a vicious, fraudulent lawsuit. The judge was about to gavel the case closed, sealing her fate and ruining her legacy, when a low, rough voice sliced through the tension. It came from the back row, from a man in a faded, ill-fitting janitor's uniform who smelled faintly of pine sol and spilled coffee. This man, a forgotten veteran with nothing to his name, slowly rose and declared, with a fierce conviction that silenced the entire room, "Your Honor, I will defend her." Olivia Harrington was accustomed to command. She was the architect of an empire built on steel and sheer will, but in that moment, sitting alone at the plaintiff's table, she felt smaller than she ever had in her life. The opposing counsel, a sharp, predatory man named Graham, was already smirking, sensing the kill after her own counsel had just announced a professional conflict of interest. A thinly veiled excuse for cowardice in the face of inevitable loss. The fluorescent lights of the courtroom seemed to mock her isolation, reflecting harshly off the polished mahogany, revealing the depth of her despair. She had fought wars in boardrooms, but this legal battle, focused on a critical piece of land and a lifetime of hard-won integrity, was about to break her. As the gavel lifted, an absolute hush fell over the room, a silence heavy with the taste of defeat. How could she possibly know that salvation was about to walk out from behind a mop bucket? That salvation came in the form of Marcus, the courthouse janitor. Most people didn't even register his presence. He was just part of the background, a fixture like the worn leather of the seating or the buzzing of the lights. Marcus had been watching the case for 2 weeks, sweeping up the remnants of Olivia's discarded coffee cups, hearing the whispers of Graham's smug arrogance, and seeing the genuine, devastating pain in Olivia's eyes. Marcus wasn't a lawyer. He was a former Army engineer, a veteran who'd seen the dirtiest corners of the world, and somewhere along the line, he'd picked up a degree in civil engineering and a photographic memory for detail. He knew the land dispute better than any of the lawyers because, during his lunch breaks, he'd actually studied the archived plat maps he was supposed to be shredding. He had nothing to gain and everything to lose, mainly his job, but something about the look of utter betrayal on Olivia's face triggered a deep, ingrained instinct, an instinct to protect the defenseless, honed in places far less civilized than this courtroom. When Marcus stood, the janitorial cart wheels squeaked, a sound that seemed deafening in the silence. He was a mountain of a man, lean and hardened by years of labor and service, wearing cargo pants and a polo shirt that had seen better decades. "Your Honor," he repeated, his voice now steadier, carrying the weight of a man accustomed to being ignored but now demanding to be heard. "I object. I submit that the plaintiff's case is built on a deliberately forged survey map." Graham started sputtering objections, but Marcus held his ground, his eyes fixed on the judge. "I am not a lawyer, but I know maps, and I know deceit. I've seen the original surveys. The one presented is missing a critical elevation marker only used by the Army Corps of Engineers in the 1970s. I can prove it." The courtroom erupted into chaos, but the judge, an old man who valued honesty above all else, slammed his gavel. He saw the fire in Marcus's eyes, a rare, unbought conviction that no high-priced lawyer could fake. He granted Marcus 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes were a masterclass in raw, focused intellect. Marcus, using a whiteboard and a dry erase marker, rapidly sketched out the topographical lines of the disputed property. He didn't use legal jargon. He used the language of earth and rock, military precision, and undeniable fact. He pointed out the subtle, critical discrepancies in the opposing counsel's map, referencing archives and survey codes from memory that even Graham's team couldn't immediately refute. He showed how the forged map deliberately omitted a natural water feature, a feature that, under established zoning law, legally invalidated Graham's entire claim. He didn't just defend Olivia. He dismantled the opposition's case with the cool, calm efficiency of a bomb disposal expert. Olivia watched, tears streaming silently down her face, not because she was saved, but because a stranger, a man of profound character and zero professional stake, was fighting for her honor when the men she paid millions had abandoned her. The air in the room was thick with tension, every eye glued to the janitor who was somehow winning the biggest legal battle of the year. When Marcus finished, the courtroom was silent once more, but this time, it was a silence of shock and dawning realization. Graham tried to salvage his case, but Marcus had planted the seed of undeniable doubt, a seed that grew instantly into a towering, undeniable truth. The judge, after a hasty consultation, announced a recess to verify the codes Marcus had cited. Within hours, the codes checked out. The forged map was exposed. The next day, the case against Olivia Harrington was dismissed with prejudice. As for Marcus, he simply returned to his cart, picking up the discarded papers and wiping down the whiteboard, humility a deeper uniform than the military green he once wore. But Olivia wouldn't allow him to disappear again. She met him outside the courthouse, not as a CEO meeting an employee, but as one human meeting another, a deep, life-altering gratitude etched on her face. She didn't offer him money or a fancy title, because she knew that would cheapen what he'd done. Instead, she offered him partnership, a chance to lead her entire corporate facilities and security division, leveraging his engineering mind and unimpeachable integrity. Marcus, the janitor who never stopped being a soldier, accepted. He didn't just save her property. He saved her faith in humanity. He used his new position to start a foundation for veterans who, like him, had the skills but needed the chance. And often, years later, when reporters asked Olivia Harrington how she overcame the most challenging moment of her career, she wouldn't talk about lawyers or mergers. She would simply smile and say, "I was saved by a man who taught me that true power isn't measured by the suit you wear, but by the conviction in your heart when you choose to defend the truth, even when you have nothing left to lose." The quiet veteran janitor, who chose to fight for a stranger's honor, proved that the greatest heroes are often the ones we fail to see, until they decide to step out of the shadows and change everything.